Welcome to Zion. I'm just kidding. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Strasbourg. Thank you all very much for joining me here today. Today we're doing something different. A little bit different for me on this channel. Never really done this before, but I thought we'd take a look at an overdrive pedal. Obviously, I'm kidding. I do it a lot because I am a simple caveman. But today, the one we're looking at, I think is very interesting and quite unique, but still very usable and very, very cool. I know I say that a lot, but it is fucking cool. It is the fourth by the Audio Cultivation Project. Now, the Audio Cultivation Project is like one of these kind of one-man pedal operations run by a guy named Zach over in the States. And you may probably know Zach and his work from his kind of breakout pedal, which was the Pome, P-O-M-E, which is, from what I understand, is kind of like it's an expression control, and you kind of hook it up to the expression input, and you can use it to control the expression parameters of a pedal with picking dynamics, and it has some controls where you can kind of set the threshold and stuff, and seems like a very cool pedal, but not really my speed. I don't use expression much, and I'm a simple caveman, but he had the fourth solid state distortion pedal out. I guess I called it an overdrive, it's a distortion. It can be whatever you want it to be, really. Anyway, so I swung Zach a cheeky DM, slid right into those DMs, and asked if he would be willing to send one to me to check out, and he graciously said yes. So big shout out to Zach. This video is technically sponsored, but all I got is the pedal, no payment. He hasn't told me what to say or what to do for this video, so obviously all thoughts are my own, but I bloody think this is a very fucking cool pedal. Yep, nice one. Good job. Fucking sick one, lad. So what is it? So the fourth, it's a solid state distortion pedal, and it's kind of meant to mimic old kind of solid state amps, at least it's in its inception. He's named a couple in the manual. If you give me a moment, I'll grab it and we can read them out. It is meant to kind of designed to be sit comfortably alongside some of its trashiest solid state amp colleagues, the Music Man 112RD or 112RD, the Epiphone Studio 10s, and the Silvertone 1464. There you go. It says some more shit in the manual, which I'll probably have to pick back up and go to, but I listened to Zach on a podcast, and he talked about how it was just meant to be this real trashy kind of solid state amp overdrive type thing, but it kind of turned into something a bit more. And he ended up adding kind of a bunch of parameters that allow you to really take this pedal further, and I think that is where the kind of strengths of this thing lie. I think the kind of trashy sound is very cool, and it is something that is super unique. I mean, I am a big fan of kind of, not necessarily the amps, though I have played plenty of solid state amps that I think are cool, but like pedals that kind of aim to replicate a solid state kind of grind and distortion type thing. Like, it's on my pedal board right now, but the EAE Halberd, which is Halberd, which is my favorite pedal of all time. You can go check out the video on it. I don't really know how to put the things in. Just go look on my channel and find my video of the Halberd. It's very cool. Zach is also a fan of that video. At least that's what he told me, and I'm going to choose to believe him because I like to think the best in people. The sun has just gone behind a cloud. I don't know if you can tell, so the lighting has just changed. Now it's very cool. It's got the kind of the symmetry. I'm like, Harvey Two-Face. Where's my coin? Anyway, so I'm a big fan of the kind of sound that this pedal can these types of pedals aim to replicate, but this can go a lot further. So let's talk about the controls, and then we'll get into some particular kind of examples I like. I don't know, now that the sun's gone, I don't know if you can see this. The kind of dark green does look cool, but can make things difficult to see maybe in this light. This knob up here is the output knob. Here we go, the sun's coming back. Output knob, wonderful. Volume, very good. Big knob here, gain. Shape. Now the shape controls the kind of, it's not a tone control, it's the kind of post-gain bass control. According to the manual, it's the post-gain bass control. Let me have a look. I don't normally consult the manual this much, but I tend to forget stuff and get stuff wrong, so let's do it properly this time. Is a post-gain bass control that adjusts the wave of the waveform shape before going into the second gain stage. So this thing has two gain stages. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. I did read that in here. It's kind of like hard clipping and op amp destruction, which is a combo that I love. Something that like op amp distortion, like just pushing an op amp till its limits and like hard clipping, it's a recipe for win. So the shape control controls the kind of, I guess, after the second stage of gain, there you can control how much bass. So all the way over to here, you've got the most, kind of all the way down, you've got the most bass, and then the more you turn it up, it doesn't necessarily add top end, but it kind of strangles your signal and takes out the bass. You know, it doesn't add brightness back in. But you can get some really cool kind of sounds, and as you turn it up at that, it gets really tight, which is what I love. It gets really tight and quite chuggy, and the kind of pick articulation really comes out. Then we have all these little switches here. So this one furthest over here is kind of like a strangle switch. You can think of it like that. So in the middle position, it's just kind of like standard, fully open. If you flip it up, it's like the most choke. So it's kind of gated, almost you can get into gated fuzz territory, and it like has a real short decay before it cuts out. Flick it down into the middle, and it's kind of somewhere in between. So there'll be this kind of like buzzy decay, which you get on some of those like old solid state amps, but there's still kind of sustain and a decent amount of decay there. Next one along, we have the bass control. This bloody is a 3-way toggle that bloody just gives you the bass.
I'm all about that bass.
So in the middle, you have kind of the least bass. In the up position, you have somewhere in between, and down you have the most bass. Next, we have the kind of treble response of the pedal, and it's a very similar thing in that in the middle, it's the most treble. Up, there's somewhere in between, and down is the least treble. Now, it can sound kind of counterintuitive in a way, kind of being like, well, you have one control that adds more bass and one that takes away treble, but there is a different sound, and it does affect different things. Like you can think of the middle one as like a push, right? The more like in the middle, it's cutting the most, whereas in the other two, it's pushing more. Whereas you can think of the treble as a cut, whereas in the middle, it's taking the least amount of treble out. But the more flicks the more like whether you go up or down, it's taking treble out rather than pushing bass like the bass switch does. Those are basically the controls, and within this kind of relatively simple looking pedal, you have a vast variety of different sounds you can achieve. I'm a simple man. I kind of like everything in the middle. I like the most treble. I don't tend to like heaps of bass, but I like lots of treble. I'm not a huge fan of like the gated thing. It's cool for certain sounds. I used it for certain parts in the intro track, but I like to leave things just wide open, kind of run the gain, boost the volume a bit, have the shape up kind of high. That's where I like to live on this pedal, but there is definitely a wealth of sounds to be found, and those switches really come in handy for like specific parts, interesting parts, and when you're playing on bass. And yes, I'm going to go through this thing on bass. I use it on bass for the intro track, and I'm going to play some isolated bass later, and I think those kind of adding some low end and stuff in comes really handy when you're playing bass. But what do I love about this pedal? Well, I love the fact that it's dynamic. Like the Halberd, it is so responsive to your picking dynamic, you know, and to the volume control. Like you can roll off the volume control switch to like the middle position, and you get these like beautiful, like sparkly, clean sound. No low end, but it's this real kind of sparkly, kind of trashy, almost thin, but not too thin, clean sound. But then, you know, you kind of run the gain down a bit, push the volume, so it's kind of, this pedal is like pushing the front of your amp or amp sim. And then if you run in that middle position, you get really good kind of like the kind of clangy type sounds that you can get out of some of the kind of noise rock inspired pedals. But yeah, super, super dynamic with the picking hand, and just like a great kind of, noise rock, fuzz rock type thing. You could get heaps of like Queens of the Stone Age-esque sounds, not just like the PV Decade, but like I was even getting some stuff that sounded like the bass sound on Songs for the Deaf. You know, like there's some really cool sounds that can be had in here on guitar or on bass. But yeah, that's enough yapping. Let's bloody get into it. So first we're going to do guitar. I'm going to play my Telecaster American Special into the Science Amps Mother, set to the kind of clean channel. I think this sounds best in front of like a slightly pushed amp, but it would work well in front of a heavily distorted amp or not, maybe not heavy, but like a driven amp or a super clean amp. I think it's very versatile to use anywhere. But yeah, Science Amps Mother, kind of push clean sound going into the Science Amps IRs that I got off their website. And then for the bass, going to be using my Epiphone Thunderbird, into the Mother Pre again, but into the Science Amps bass IRs. And yeah, let's hear some sounds. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. This has been another spectacular fandangled YouTube guitar pedal demo. Once again, thank you to Zach at the Audio Cultivation Project for sending this pedal out to me. It's very cool. I love it. I've had it on my board and I've used it for a couple of gigs recently with my band at Citizen Rat on Instagram. Go check us out. Check out our music on Spotify, all that good stuff. But yeah, it's done really well. Cuts through great in a live mix. It's kind of replaced my fuzz on my pedal board. I'm kind of using like a kind of trashy, slightly overdrivey, fuzzy type thing. And yeah, it's cool. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I don't see it going anywhere in the kind of near future. I think I'm gonna stick with it. Keep rocking it, brother. And yeah, have some fun with it. But thank you very much for watching. Do you have one of Zach's pedals? Do you have the fourth or the Poem? Let me know down below what you think of it. Even if you don't, let me know what you thought of it based on this video. And yeah, say hello to your mother, tell her you love her, and I'll see you in the next video. Fuck off.